It is Monday the 28th of March and welcome to my world right now. As some of you know, we have a little bit of a plague situation in our house right now, and this is currently day 6 of me living on the floor of my craft room. We have been so careful, but somebody gave in to peer pressure and went into his office for the first time in over 2 years, and now somebody is riddled with germs. The main thing is that he's okay and that hopefully in a few days we can hug again, which will be very nice. I know some of you are expecting a crochet tutorial to drop any time now, but honestly, quite apart from the disruption around the house and in this space, I haven't been able to sit and focus on anything, least of all editing together a detailed tutorial. Right now I just need to do something easy and fun to take my mind off things. I'm sure you get it. And that brings us nicely to the Sew Frugal challenge. The gist of the challenge is that you choose a free garment pattern and some fabric already in your stash, you sew up the project during March, and you post it on reveal day along with everybody else on March the 31st. So in theory this video will go out on Thursday, assuming I don't muck it up too badly. Given the current situation and given that the challenge deadline is now 3 days away, grand plans have kind of morphed into just make something really quick and easy that makes me happy. That's just where we're at right now. Now, using your existing supplies is obviously a noble goal, but the problem is when you're like me and you don't really have much of a fabric stash yet. All I could find that I have in a decent amount is this. Super exciting plain navy blue viscose. It is nice, it's super soft, but I have absolutely no idea how to work with this stuff, so I definitely need to look up some tips before I do anything. I'm not entirely sure how much of it there is, or even where I got it from. I do remember I bought it last summer when I was trying to psych myself up to try a play suit. The problem there being I couldn't really find a pattern that I liked and was confident enough to tackle. So instead it's just sort of sat on a shelf, awkwardly sticking out above my head in videos. It is easy to feel a lot of pressure with things like this to make something spectacular that'll get a ton of likes on Instagram, but we are throwing all of that to the side because I've narrowed it down to 2 patterns that are both incredibly me and incredibly boring. Pattern 1 is this cute kimono type dress from So In Love, and pattern 2 is a longer kaftan style by Simple Simon and Company. Pattern 1 is totally me shape-wise, but I just think it might look better in a different fabric. Pattern 2, meanwhile, only has 3 seams to it, which is like really appealing to me right now. I have got a decision to make, and I'll get back to you ASAP. Okay, it is now 2 days later, which, if you're keeping track, that means this is Wednesday the 30th of March, and yeah, the deadline is still the 31st of March. So what have I got done in the intervening 2 days? Well, I did realise that while I'd bought the fabric, I hadn't pre-washed it at the time. So I've since washed and dried that, and it turned out I looked up the order receipt and I have 4 meters of the stuff, so it took a while to get it all dried yesterday. I wasn't really sure how to wash viscose, and then I googled it and the first result told me it could only be dry cleaned and I had a bit of a panic. But then all the other results told me, it'll be fine. So I just stuck it in the wash and it seems okay. Yesterday I also attempted to make a final decision on which dress to make because, you know, that helps. I did some maths and I sketched out like a rough cutting plan for myself, measured all my bits and pieces. Long story short, there's a chance I might actually be able to make both of these patterns from the one bit of fabric because I have so much of it. But that depends on 2 things. A, my maths actually being right, and B, the fabric not having shrunk too much in the wash. My plan right now is to move everything out of the way in this room and completely turn it upside down so that I have some space. I've put off crafting in here just because I didn't want to have to do this, but you know what? I can't just go on indefinitely not making stuff, right? Then I'm gonna iron the fabric and measure it and see if I still have the width that I would need to get both of those patterns out of it. If not, I've decided that I will make the shorter kimono dress. But if there is enough, I'm kind of wondering if it's possible for me to make 2 dresses in one afternoon. That sounds very ambitious. I found these old things of Play-Doh and I thought they would make great pattern weights for the day, but turns out they're really dusty and they've left like rings all over the fabric. So You didn't see anything. It's fine. Also, this is totally ironed fabric. Alright, if you have seen me sew before, you know I tend to spend a lot more time worrying about it than I do doing it. I'm just gonna try my best to get stuck in. Definitely already regretting the decision to not iron this properly, but is anybody really surprised? Okay, that's 2 skirt bits cut out. It actually worked pretty fine with the pinning. This side is nice and neat through both layers. This side, we kind of got a bit skew with here. But it's only a tiny bit, nobody's gonna notice, right? Ta-da! Did the exact same thing with the top sections, and now I have 4 relatively same rectangles. Close enough for this, I think. So I have just cut out 6 in total very simple pattern pieces, literally just basic shapes. And it's taken me, to mark those out and cut them, it's taken me over an hour. And this is what I really hate about sewing tutorials, right? Because you follow a pattern or a video tutorial or something, and this point where you have the pieces, this is where they start from. But that's not counting the cutting time, it's not counting the planning time for getting it to go on my fabric. Alright, so just then my camera ran out of storage space, so I've just been copying that over onto my computer to make room, and in the meantime I've put some marks on the wrong side of all of the bits and pieces, just so I know what's what and which way up they go, because knowing me, I will sew some of these rectangles the wrong way around if I don't. I've also put these little X's on all 4 of the top rectangles according to the pattern tutorial. Alright, only one thing left to do, which is of course actually sew everything together. I need to get the machine set up. I'm not sure what kind of thread I left in there last. If it's black, I might just kind of go with that because this stuff is pretty dark. I think it even shows up lighter on camera than it is in real life. But on the other hand, if I left white in there, then I'm going to be a grown-up and I'm going to use the actual proper colour of thread. Curses. White. Inspirational sewing montage in 3, 2, 1. Made a seam. So this is kind of the sad part of sewing as a newbie. It's probably about an hour since I filmed sewing those seams, and still all I've done is sew those seams. The next step was to do a double rollover and stitch down. Oh, you can't see that at all. Sort of roll this over twice and stitch it down. But that also required paying attention to how much seam allowance I was supposed to use, which I did not do. So I've left myself with this tiny little bit of fabric here. If I can get you a better view. So this tiny bit here I need to fold under twice and stitch down. So yeah, it's a bit finicky. I'm using a lot of pins because this is what makes the neck opening neat, in theory. Remains to be seen how neat mine will turn out to be, but we live and learn. Alright, that took so long to sort out that it is getting dark. So I think we've answered the question, can I make 2 dresses in one day? But don't forget there's tomorrow as well, and I'm not done for the day yet. She says, having only sewn 2 seams. Okay, the next few steps for this pattern are easy and should whiz by. So, I'm just going to get back to the inspirational sewing montage. Hello. Try to be in my inspirational sewing montage.
Sure.
Okay. Wave to the people. So the next step, according to the pattern, she just says, just make 2 buttonholes, as if it's that easy. But I've literally never done that, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So, I was kind of tempted to keep going and do the next part, and then come back to that. But I really need to look at the instructions more closely and make sure that doing other stuff first isn't going to impact being able to make those holes, because I have no idea how this whole thing works. So I'm going to do a bit of research now, and then I'll probably finish this off in the morning, because the light in here is terrible and this is dark blue fabric, so like that's really hard to make a video of. But also just because I can make a start editing this and play Elite Dangerous all night, which sounds much better right now. Downside is I'll have to get all of the sewing stuff out tomorrow. I'll have to put the airbed and that down, but such is life in the time of COVID. Guess who made a buttonhole? I did my research last night into how to do buttonholes on my machine, and the first thing I did this morning was give it a whirl. Well, I mean, obviously first thing I did this morning was get a cup of tea, but the second thing was give it a whirl. All of the buttonhole tutorials are super strict about having to do this on a stabilised fabric, preferably one that's been interfaced. So of course, the first thing I did was throw that out the window and attempt it on just your basic 1 layer of floppy viscose. I think there's probably like a reason that they say to do it on the interfaced fabric. I had the bright idea to add a sheet of paper behind it, fiddled with the pressure of the foot a little bit, and bam, buttonhole. So yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do that. And then that's the scary bit out of the way. And all I'll need to do is attach the skirt, hem it where I want it to be, and decide what I'm doing about the shoulders. And then we're done apart from the waist tie. And I know I can do a waist tie, so I'm not scared of that part. Oh, before I get started, one other thing. Last night I managed to use the very thin strip of bare floor in here to measure out the remaining fabric and see if I had enough to make the kaftan dress as well. Good news. Even though the width of the fabric has changed, there's just 1 inch more than I needed to make that dress, and about 2 inches more lengthwise, so it's worked out absolutely perfect. I don't know if I'll get round to doing that today. It seems very unlikely, let's be honest. But I'm going to get 2 dresses out of this 1 piece of fabric. Pretty happy with that. So the first one I did here kind of went a bit wrong. This will teach me to be confident in anything I ever do. But I think it's probably fine because the waist tie is going to be really small. The other one went flawlessly and is much neater, but it's also really big and very wonky. So yeah, those do not match at all. But you know what? You're not going to see them. I don't care. I did buttonholes. I'll get some fray check on that later. And by fray check, I do of course mean clear nail polish. I think, right, I might actually be nailing this in one sense of the word anyway. God, focus on things, camera. See, the buttonholes are above the waist seam, and basically on the inside is quite a wide seam allowance, and what we're going to do next is fold that up. Hang on. Here's my buttonholes. We're going to fold that up and stitch it down, making like a tube over the top of the buttonholes, which is where the waist tie will go. If that makes sense. Or if it's focused on it at all. I can't even tell. It's definitely not what I would call flouncy outdoor dress reveal weather. Alright, it's coming together. I need to decide whether to leave the sleeves closed, as I've pinned this one, or a bit open as I've pinned this one. And honestly, I don't know. I also need to hem it. You can't see that. It's a bit long at the bottom and needs tidying up. But, you know, imagine this all cinched in at the waist and, yeah, it's just another sack dress. Whatever, you know what? They're good for newbies and they're comfortable to wear. So, yeah, sleeves, hem, making a waist tie, and then we're done. All I need to do is iron it. There are a few bits inside that I haven't overlocked yet. I need to do that so they don't drop to bits. I need to fray check a couple of bits, including the buttonholes. And then, yeah, get it ironed and get some photos taken. Well, you know what? This thing has really come together. It's like probably about 3 hours since I last updated you when all I had to do was the last few stitches, but I kind of had a bit of a disaster with the machine. I should know by now not to get too confident towards the end of projects, because in my experience that's always where something goes wrong, and in this case it was when I tried to hem the dress and my machine just did this? I don't even know what that is. I spent ages picking it back out, changed absolutely no settings whatsoever, gave it another go, and it was perfect the second time round. So yeah, I have no idea. We'll do the dramatic reveal in a second, but I just want to say, when I was turning round the waist tie, I was sitting and watching videos from other people doing the Sew Frugal challenge, and man, people are making the most beautiful things. You should definitely check out the hashtag on Instagram and also on YouTube because, yeah, this is not representative of the skill level involved in the sewing community. Okay, enough waffle. All you care about is seeing the dress. I got you. So yeah, it's very much not perfect in many ways, and in one particular way it's already started to fall to bits and I need to go back in and reinforce some stitching because I didn't know what I was doing with viscose. But you know what? That's fine. This is how we learn. I absolutely love how it's turned out. I just need to go back and tidy some bits up. But for right now, if it's wearable, it's finished. I don't know what the point of this video was other than giving me something to film this week. I do know that some of you who watch my channel are also beginner sewists, and I just hope that seeing me muddle my way through something like this gives you a little bit of hope that you could probably do better if you just actually concentrate on what you're doing. I would recommend not sewing with viscose until you're at least comfortable with your machine, but honestly, it wasn't that bad. I just learned some valuable lessons for next time. French seam everything. You'll thank me later. Right, well, despite its many flaws, I totally intend to wear this dress all summer, including, hopefully, on Saturday at War of the Worlds the musical. If not, I guess I'll wear it at home to watch WrestleMania instead. I will be back soon with the crochet tutorial that you all actually want to watch, so in the meantime, have a brilliant rest of your day and keep making cool stuff.